Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we continue our study of Sefer Mishlei, the book of Proverbs. We are about to begin chapter 23, which is a continuation of the section of Mishlei, which started with verse 17 in the last chapter 22, where we have either a father or a rabbi or a sage or a teacher teaching his student or his son and referencing him as Bini, my son. And we continuing in that section. So we have to imagine ourselves in watching a situation where you have a sage talking to his disciple. And that's the image that we should have in our minds as we listen to these verses. Ki teshev, when you sit, in other words, this is directed to a person, when you sit, lil chom. Over here, the word lil chom is not from the language of milchama, which would be fight with or war, but really very different. Lil chom is from the language lechem, of bread to eat. And you'll see from the context of this and the next several verses that this is clearly the case. So, ki seishev lil chom et moshel, when you sit down to eat at a meal with a ruler. So we're talking about when you're sitting to eat with someone who is powerful. You're sitting to eat with the president or with the king or somebody in power, right? Bin tovin es asher lifonecha. You have to really think hard and understand what is in front of you. And what we're going to understand as we see the next few verses is he's warning you. Solomon is warning us here not to think that he's your best friend. Don't get too comfortable. Be very careful when you're in that situation, right? V'samta sakin biloecha. And I'm going to use what really is the Metzudos' understanding of this, which is I think is the most, I enjoy the most, it would be better, right? Or you might as well put a knife in your stomach, right? In your throat, right? Imbal nefesh ata. If you're the kind of person who is a person who likes pleasures. In other words, if you're going to get too comfortable there, right, and start eating away and divulging whatever it is on your mind and not being careful about the situation, you might as well just put a knife in your throat because you're going to get stuck in a dangerous situation, because the person who invited you to eat, this person of power, is not doing it out of his generosity. He's doing it because he has an ulterior motive. So you have to be careful and watch out so that he doesn't take advantage. Al tis'av, continuing with this image, al tis'av limat amosav. Don't desire the flavorful, tasty things he is giving you, right? In other words, don't sit and eat like a glutton. And this is, of course, advice not to sit and eat like a glutton, but more so the other favors and things that he's giving you, don't desire them, because if you desire them, you're going to fall into his trap and he's going to take advantage of you, right? V'hu lechem kisavim, it is bread that is full of lies. So the metaphor is one of sitting at a meal with a king or a powerful person, right? But this is, of course, more than just when you're sitting with a powerful person and he's offering you things. If you desire them heavily and you're a glutton and you take advantage of them, you're going to fall straight down into the trap he's laying for you, and he's going to take advantage of you. So be very careful in what you do and what you say, and the matamim and the favors that you take from him. Al tigal ha'ashir. And then it says, changes gears a little bit in verse 4. Don't work too hard just to get rich. It doesn't mean you shouldn't work hard. But if your entire life is devoted to just making more money and getting rich, and you exhaust yourself and you don't enjoy your life, but al tigal hashir mi binoscha chadol, use your brains, use your wisdom, and stay away from certain actions. If an action is causing more harm than good, stay away from it, even though you think you need to do that in order to get rich. Why? Because hato'uf einecha bo, because the this is verse 5, or hato'if, depending on how you read it. But either way, it comes from the language of uf, la'uf, to fly like a bird. Hato'if einecha bo. When you put your eyes, right, in it, hato'if, don't you see that it just flies away, right? The riches that you work for, all you need is one recession, one stock market crash, and the whole thing goes kaput. Ve'inenu, and it's gone. Ki aso ya'aseh lo knafayim, it grows its own wings and flies away. Kinesher yo'of hashamayim, like a vulture. That I'm translating a nesher as a vulture, because the word nesher, which is often translated as an eagle, it's a mistranslation, and we know it's referring to the griffin vulture that's native to the Middle East. If you're ever fortunate enough, I forget exactly where it is, and it's near the Golan, near the Kinneret, where they're raising griffin vultures to repopulate them because they're endangered. And watch one of them fly over the Middle Eastern skies. It's a spectacular, spectacular sight. I highly recommend it. Anyway, Kinesher Yo'of Hashemayim, like a vulture flying in the heavens. And we think of vultures as dirty birds, but they're not. If you watch them, they're just absolutely beautiful. Watching them fly in the skies, and just huge birds, they're really, really wonderful. But here you see it flying away, way out there. Your wealth is gone, way up in the sky, flying away. You can't see it anymore. So, sure, go ahead, work for a living, but don't kill yourself over it, because wealth can be gone in a moment. And now, just like we had before, and I think it is connected to the beginning where we discussed the sitting in front of a wealthy man, because, some people will say, but he's offering me all of this. It's worth it to sell myself for the goodies that he's giving out. Be careful. It's not worth it, because the dangers are too significant. And whatever you think you're getting is something that disappears in a moment. The next verse gives us another image of sitting at someone's table, but this time, instead of a ruler, it's sitting in front of a person who is stingy. Sometimes, most of us have probably been in experiences like this, where somebody offers you something, but he or she is truly stingy and really doesn't want to share, really doesn't want to give. They're doing it because they have to. And if you're ever at someone's house eating a dinner with them, or sitting with someone at a restaurant, and expecting them to pay the bill, but they really don't want to, al tilcham et lechem ra'oyin, don't eat the bread, right, and eat with the person who is stingy, who is a miser. And don't desire the things that he gives, right? Stay away from it. Don't be even interested in joining such a thing. Ki kimo sha'ar benafsho, because he has like an account book in his soul, in his mind. He keeps accounts. And this is really telling us to be wary of relationships in general with people who approach life this way, who approach life as an account. I gave you X, you deserve to give me Y. You gave me Y, I give you Z. Everything is an exact. I'll never forget when I was in my medical training, and there was when we had to deal with all the other medical residents for schedule. The big thing then was getting time off to be with your family or whatever. Because the work schedule was so hard, and people would wheel and deal. I gave you the one day last month, and you're supposed to get, and sitting there with the account book, constantly negotiating this day for that day, this hour for that hour. Well, you had 22 days last year, and I had only 21, and now you owe me one. And I kept on saying, this is not the right way to do things. Everyone has different needs. Everyone has different wants. Let's just all try our best to do our best to help everyone. And as long as we all, work our hardest to work together, everything will be fine. But as dealing with somebody who works this way, who has a shar benafsho, who has an account book inside his soul, everything is an account. Ken hu echol shesei omar lach. He might tell you, yes, go ahead, eat and drink. He might tell you, but his heart is not with you. He's not giving you that, in my example, the time off because he really wants you to enjoy some time off, or because he cares about you. He's doing that because he wants something from you tomorrow or next week. Pitcha achalta tikiena, that bread that you ate, you're going to vomit as soon as you realize that he's not giving it to you out of his good heart. He's giving it to you because he wants something. V'shichata dvarecha haneimim, and all of your sweet words, all of your sweet talking and honest dealing is a waste. Is just a total waste of time. Bi'aznei kasil al tedaber. Don't bother wasting your time talking to a fool. Somebody that wants to learn from you, that's really interested, that's wonderful. Listen, talk, converse, discuss, debate, etc. But someone who's really not interested, a ksil, a person who is a fool, but we translate this as fool because I don't have a better translation for the word. But as we know from the context, the word ksil has popped up many, many times in this book. A ksil is not so much a fool as a dumb person, but a person who's not interested in learning, a person who's not interested in wisdom, a person who's not interested in the truth. Such a person, it's not even worth talking into his ear. It's not even worth telling him anything. Ki yavuz l'seichel milecha. He is going to disdain, and he is going to what's the good word for lavuz? Despise. The wisdom of your words, and he's, no matter what point you make, even if it's a good, wise point, something important, he's just going to step on it, stomp on it. He's not going to care because he's not interested in learning anymore. Al taseh gevul olam. If there's a boundary that's been there forever, don't just remove it. Don't just push past it. We discussed this verse in last chapter 22, verse 28. If there's a rule that's been standing in society for many, many years, be very careful before you break past that boundary. If there's a boundary in society, I'm not. It doesn't mean necessarily that there's never a reason to do that, but really, really think hard, because that boundary is there for a reason. This is it's kind of an argument for conservatism, not what we call today in our crazy world. I don't even know what it means anymore, but true conservatism is remembering that certain things are the way they are for a good reason. There are certain boundaries in our society that are there for a good reason. Some need to be broken down, sure, but be very careful before you do them, right? Don't just break down a boundary, because there might be a reason why it's there. There might be an important purpose, and you need to think about it before you just break it down. And uv'stei yisomim al tovo. Don't, when you're going into the field of an orphan, right, and don't start taking things away from an orphan, a person who is poor, a person who doesn't have the support of family to help him or her through in their quarrels, etc. Right? Don't get involved with that. Don't hurt them, because verse 11, Ki go'alam chazak, their Redeemer is very strong. In other words, they rely on God. It is God who steps in their defense, right? And if we think about this, on the face of it, this is of course a beautiful idea, but it's deeper than that. When we hurt someone and we know their defense system, right? Then we know what we're up against, right? This guy has his father is this position in government, his cousin is the rich guy over there, his uncle is the chief of police, so we know what we're dealing with. But when you go to someone who is an orphan, who is poor, you don't know. They don't have all of that, and their defense is a different kind of defense. It's a defense of righteousness and justness, and ultimately it's going to come eat you even more. Hu yariv esrivam mitach. It is he with the capital H. God will fight their fight with you. It's going to come from other places that you could not predict and you could not know of. So be very careful. Havi ala musar libecha. Apply your mind to musar. Apply your mind to discipline, right? That's what you should be thinking about. V'oznechal imrei das. And what should you listen to? What should you learn from? Listen to words that are wise, that are true, that are important. Al timna mina ar musar. And also, so first you. Verse 12 is first you. You have to have musar. You have to have discipline. You have to think about the consequences of your actions. And also, when you are teaching someone, and remember this, in the context here is the context of a wise man teaching his student. And don't take and don't stop disciplining the nar, the young person, the person who's learning from you. Ki takenu b'shevet lo yamos. If you strike him with a rod, he will not die. Now, of course, this harkens back to the day, which is not something that we see today, and you know that's not something we favorably look upon in most quarters of society today, and that is corporal punishment. So it kind of gives you a little bit the jitters thinking about this, because it's not something that we usually think about today as a good way of applying discipline. So I just recommend that don't think about this as hitting with a rod, literally. But some punishment, making rules for your children, for the person that you're learning. He's not going to die, or she's not going to die. If you say there are consequences for your actions, if you break these rules, these are the consequences. Punishment does exist. It's not the end of the world. You're not hurting them. He won't die from it. Go ahead and strike him with that rod. And remember, I think about it as discipline him. And ultimately you'll be saving his soul from entering the depths of hell one day. B'ni, my son, im chacham libecha, if your heart is wise, right? Yismach libi gamani, I will be happy too. So remember, he started by saying, you yourself, I myself have to listen to wisdom. I myself have to understand musar, discipline, and realize there are consequences to my actions. And when I teach a child or my student, I have to make sure to set those rules, to set those guidelines, to set those boundaries, because I will be happy with your success. This is the ultimate beauty of a good teacher, a good father, a good parent, is someone who is happy when his son or her student is successful. My innards, literally my kidneys, right, will be rejoice. When I hear you speaking straight and beautiful things, when I hear you speaking the truth, when I hear that, I will be incredibly happy. Don't be jealous of those people who are sinners, who gain their wealth and success through sins, through lies. If you're going to be jealous of the people, and this doesn't mean a bad kind of jealousy, but when you be envious of those who have the fear of God all day, those people that live their lives and walk their lives in humility before God, understanding who they are, their place in society, and who they're not. People that have the fear and awe of God, that walk humbly before Him, right? Those are the ones that you should be jealous of and try to emulate. Ki im yesh acharis, because for then, if you do it that way, then you will have a future, right? It'll carry you through life. It'll take you all the way through. And you will never lose hope. You will always have hope if that's the approach that you take. But if you constantly looking at the sinners and those that have ill-gotten gains, those that have their supposed success in quotation marks in life through cheating, through lying, if that's the path you follow, you will lose hope. You will eventually get to a point where you will have nothing to hope for. I'm going to end here the first half of chapter 23. I really appreciate that you participated and listened and learned. I hope something from the words of the Proverbs. If you have comments, feel free to send me an email directly at weinrebsaul@gmail.com. That is WEINREBSAUL @gmail.com. Wishing you a wonderful, wonderful day.